microphone up close. Webcam microphone up close.
At the age of 19 in 1962, she was a...
But I have the files. I read this stuff at the National Archives, and I read these other things. I said to myself, how can that be possible? Days, fondle slab of choice. I don't know when that was. It doesn't really matter. Internet, professional wrestlers, and not just Ventura style. It doesn't matter where the information comes from as long as it's real. It's hard to get real information. Because seriously, they don't want you to have just read two sources whenever I try to prove out. It's not. If you expect your government to tell you the truth, you're going to be sadly disappointed on another one of these things.
Dear Lord, what a dirty, dirty old man, huh?
Really? You can't be serious. Is this really how you want things to be? Come on. More hooker, eruptions? Eruptions, whatever.
Like Dave Powers kind of...
Really?
Allegedly broadcast live from Pima Region 2, within the borders of the formerly united and currently occupied states of America. We bring you the Ochelli Effect.
Like, damn sure, no, I'm an original. We have all these situations. I'd love to know why it takes 50 years, for a 19-year-old girl to eventually get up to gumption to put these things out.
And it's Tuesday night on the Ochelli Effect, brought to you right here on UCY.TV radio. So we are live on the 13th day of January. And of course, Tuesday nights are always the thing that I do, with the Liberty Beacon, all one word.com. And of course, I will be joined rather shortly by Roger Landry. And after that, I'm not exactly sure what I'm going to do, but we shall soon see. Anyway, I want to thank everybody for tuning in, whether you've decided to join me via the TuneIn app or go to the homepage, which is at ucy.tv/TOE. Appreciate all of that, and glad that you're with us. So, looks like I can't utilize the chat room today for some odd reason, so I won't be able to pay attention to that stuff. Interesting weekend, I'll give it that. Of course, in the mainstream news, we're still confronted by this whole, Paris debacle, the whole situation in France, where, there was yet again another one of these terror acts of sorts, allegedly, and of course the narrative continues, and the mainstream media continues to wring every single drop of blood or water or whatever it is you want to call it out of that event. But we're not going to talk about that tonight, not at all. So, the Liberty Beacon, all one word.com, and at some point in this show, I'm actually going to go back over, because somebody did ask me recently what the Liberty Beacon was all about, and they have a mission statement right on the website, which I'm going to read from and discuss also in the second hour, along with something else that you might be surprised at that was kind of re-energized in my mind during the weekend roundtable, which, of course, Roger Landry was gracious enough to stop by and drop some serious common sense on the whole chaotic event, and I do appreciate that. Anyway, Roger, how are you tonight, sir?
I'm always doing great when I get a chance to have a discussion with you, Chuck.
Ah, well, that makes one of you. I'll tell you.
Well, I don't know if I'd want to talk to me very long either.
Yeah, I hear you there. I mean, I used to say that one of the worst punishments in the world would be for someone to lock me up in my own mind and leave me there. And that still stands, whether I'm part of the walking wounded out there or not. Because, of course, we have been through an awakening process in recent years. And you and I, a little bit late to the party compared to some people. But I think we're making up for it in some ways. And you, of course, the incredible volume of stuff at thelibertybeacon.com, all one word. You can't even, I don't even know where to begin to talk about this usually. But we are going to talk about that mission statement in the second hour after you depart. Because somebody started to ask me about it, and I thought, well, you know what? Let's explain exactly what the Liberty Beacon is, and that's what I'm going to do. Now, of course, you have something more for the advanced class out there tonight.
Okay, if you want to say that. The problem is that is the problem.
Exactly. Now, of course, this sounds like a whole lot of double think and double speak, but it's not. See, here's the thing: when it comes to guys like you, Roger, there is no double speak about it. You're very forthright. You don't spend a lot of time mincing words and playing around with different, phraseology, what's appropriate, what's acceptable. No, you kind of get right to the point, and that's really what I appreciate about it. Now, you may belabor that point a bit because you want to make sure you've driven it home, and after all, this is the key problem out there. So many people seem to have an idea that something is wrong with the world around them. They do have this idea, and every time I have interactions with people that are not part of the world that I inhabit at this point in time, it seems as though I feel a little discouraged. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And I'm being kind here, and this is me backing down on what I'm saying. Let me not do that. The foolishness.
My middle name is Blatancy. You know that.
Well, yeah, and that's exactly why I love having you on, because you know what? You make me stop doing all that. I'm backpedaling. I'm trying to be nice. I don't want to be cruel, But listen, sometimes the truth is, they say it hurts. Sometimes it's actually a pretty vicious master, the truth and the reality around us.
If the truth is cruel to any one person, it is only because that person has intentionally isolated themselves from that truth.
Well, yeah, and that's one of the most important parts of the equation when it comes to programmed ignorance. It's not necessarily that you're inundated by all this garbage, it's that you're accepting it still. How is it that you can accept stuff? I mean, okay, I'm going to give you a quick little example, right? That this whole thing came up, and of course this is still unfolding, and we're still learning about the situation that happened in Paris, okay, in France, whatever part of, good Lord, I know I've got my prejudices, but whatever's going on in France, the first thing I noticed is that the shooters got away and the story got to be stretched out more. But of course, I'm a conspiracy theorist, right? So we start to notice that there's problems with the videos, there's problems with the story, there's problems with this and that. There are people out there who still accept the CNNs of the world as gospel, that know that there's something wrong with that story. They know that it's like they're lying to me, but, well, they couldn't really be lying to me.
Well, I will tell you that these people are the first thing that pops into their head is, them frickin' Muslims did it again. People like you and I, the first thing that pops into our head is, are we getting the whole truth?
Exactly the point. Exactly the point, because the Islamo-fascist boogeyman is the thing that these people are clinging to still. We're still dealing with that post-9/11 garbage, nearly a decade and a half later, right? I mean, we're not quite there, but I mean, still, we're still looking at it. And it's endless, absolutely endless. But it's because you and I sit there and want to break things down and say, look, there's something wrong, now let's figure it out. Let's not immediately go to the most obvious of usual suspects, regardless of who decides to make that list. Let's not go to that list. I mean, I don't immediately think that things are a false flag either. I don't immediately think that it's, the Rothschild-driven, stable of dis are out there to sell this stuff either. Not right away. I don't jump to that right away.
It's a short path.
Listen, it doesn't take long to get there most of the time.
Short path, yeah.
But occasionally there are things that happen in the world that I think are just, actually happen, spontaneously. That does occur, So, all right, I've said enough about all of that. It's just that it really gets down to what you're going to talk about tonight. And you mind if I give them the title of the article that we're going to be...
Absolutely not.
All right. It's time for we the people to stop blaming everybody, ellipsis points, but ourselves. And for those of you who don't know what ellipsis points are, those are those three little dots that usually indicate that there's a little more to the thought, but we're shortening it up. And you can't find a better use of ellipsis points than this one. So it's time.
I use the hell out of them everywhere.
I have that habit too, and it drives anybody who's a proper English speaking person, English writing individual, someone who is really into what's grammatically and punctually correct in my writing. It drives them up a wall, but it is who I am as well. So you and I share the ellipsis points, my friend. But again, it's time for we the people to stop blaming everybody but ourselves, and that's the way that should sound in your heads. So whenever you're ready, Roger, I'm with you, and I don't know if you want to start with the graphic or if you want to...
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, I do. What I want to start with is a short explanation here, okay? And I'm not going to go too deep into this because it's all going to unfold as the article unfolds, or the commentary or the rant unfolds. But let's start this all off with this, okay? We live in what was created as a constitutional republic. The hierarchy in a constitutional republic goes, we the people are the masters. We sit at the top of the totem pole. Right below us sits the state governments. The states are right below we the people in the power hierarchy in this constitutional republic. And the bottom of the totem pole, the bottom, is the federal government, which serves both the state governments and the ultimate governors of this republic, we the people. So that's the hierarchy. That said, let's start off with the graphic. Okay, again, Chuck, I love the way you said it the last time. It's time for we the people to stop blaming everybody but ourselves. And the graphic has a quote on it. Let me read the quote, and this quote is by Abraham Lincoln. America will never be destroyed from the outside. If we falter and lose our freedoms, it will be because we destroyed ourselves. Now, I need to expound upon that, okay? Because I am so tired of everybody saying the government has done this, we're powerless to stop it. The CIA has done this, we are powerless to stop it. The military has done this, we are powerless to stop it. It needs to stop here, because nothing could be further from the truth. And those who have convinced themselves of this very thing are the reason this country is in the crap it's in. So let me explain that to you, okay? Mm-hmm. What follows is not a bedtime story and may very well anger or even offend some, the most guilty. The truth is often buried or masked. Regardless, it remains a constant, and to those who wish to ignore or corrupt it, not a pleasant one. Those offended by what they are about to hear are the ones who need to read and understand what is being said the most, because the truth is, this is a nation of, by, and for the people. If it perishes, it does so by our hands and not by the actions of any tyrannical government. We live in a republic of which we sit at the top of the pyramid. Let me read that again. This is a nation of, by, and for the people. If it perishes, it does so by our own hands and not by the actions of any tyrannical government. Let's expound on that. When I state this or quote this, I get very little response, and in some cases, negative feedback. Why? It's the absolute truth. no matter how hard it is to hear. We, the people, through a major disconnect facilitated by our laziness, our apathy, or our ignorance, have permitted just about all that ails us to become a reality. This, my friends, is a fact, and I will explain that to you. I am constantly hearing about our leaders, how our leaders continue to pass bills that pile more debt on the backs, on our backs and that of our children, that remove our civil rights and freedoms and do nothing to extricate us from our imperialistic warmongering, even though they campaign on exactly these promises. Yet we continually re-elect these idiots, and they continue to consolidate power over us as a result of that. Just look back at the last presidential election or the re-elect campaign or series. The re-election rate of incumbents in this failing country. Let's look at that from even the last election cycle, when so many of us railed against the known tyranny. I was around in 2012. I put the Liberty Beacon Project together in 2012, and I had another project prior to that. And I remember hundreds of thousands of people railing, millions of people railing against what Congress was doing was tyrannical against the American people. Okay, now let's stop and think about this, okay? The average re-election, or the amount of people re-elected exceeded 90% in Congress. Exceeded 90%. Millions and tens of millions of people railed against the tyranny being perpetrated by Congress, yet 90% plus of them were reelected. Let me break away from this article just long enough to explain that to you. We, as a local community, do not wish to admit we might have picked a loser for Congress. So our mindset is everybody else's congressman is a tyrant except mine. All the rest of them should be fired. But what you fail to understand is every other community across this country is thinking the same thing. And why are they thinking that? They're thinking that because they just don't know. They're so disconnected from the political system, they haven't got a clue how this damn congressman or this senator has voted on any of the bills that have gone through the House. I conducted an experiment a year ago, okay? I went around to 2 pubs, 2 shopping malls, and a couple of other local businesses, and I just picked people at random, and I asked them if they knew who their congressman or their senator was. Okay, only 12.5% did. 12.5% could name who was representing them. The next question I asked was, I picked 3 local bills that had gone through the Senate and Congress, and I asked, these are the 2 questions I asked each and every one of these individuals. Do you know how the people who represent you in Congress voted on these bills? 4% even hazarded a guess, and less than 2% of them were correct. The last question I asked, okay? The last question. Do you know what these bills have done to your rights and your freedoms, your unalienable rights and your freedoms as laid down or as protected by the Bill of Rights and the Constitution? Less than 1% could answer that question. So let's move on, okay?
Well, see, and that just speaks directly to how disengaged the public is. And look, I understand that there are people out there that are probably saying to themselves, if they listen to me, look, the elections are generally bought and paid for. They absolutely are. The politicians who go there, regardless of who's voted for, are then taken care of on the back end one way or another. This is true. But the fact is that nobody is even aware of what these people are doing or who they are, generally speaking.
We're going to get into that. We
are.
Good. Okay, so I come to my next quote, okay? Mm-hmm. We just can't trust the American people to make those types of choices. Government has to make those choices for the people. Quote from Hillary Rodham Clinton. Okay, let's continue with the article. They claim to represent us, but prove by their self-centered actions that nothing could be further from the truth. Just a little research by any involved or concerned citizen would show that their actions, in most cases, there are a few exceptions, rare exceptions, prove to serve only their masters or themselves. Term limits have been discussed for decades as a tool to get this evil and destructive monster we call our government under control, but has a snowball's chance in hell of ever passing in Congress, as it would short-term or short-circuit their personal power. It has also been discussed curtailing access and influence of lobbying or terminating it altogether, basically stemming the flow of money for corruption to our elected leaders. What a freaking joke. These people own our representatives, so they will never cut off their noses to spite their faces. Let's go to the next quote. Ours is not a fated existence, for nowhere is our destiny etched in stone. In the final analysis, the last line of defense in support of freedom and the Constitution consists of the people themselves. If the people want to be free, if they want to lift themselves out from underneath a state apparatus that threatens their liberties, squanders their resources on needless wars, destroys the value of their dollar, spews forth endless propaganda about how indispensable it is and how lost we would be without it. There is no force that can stop them, meaning the people. Quote by Dr. Ron Paul. And let's continue. Freedom-robbing legislations like the Patriot Act and the NDAA rider and Obamacare, just to mention a few, tyranny abounds in many bills hidden in many clauses, were passed by a majority of congressional members, forcing tyranny down the throats of we the people. Yet a vast majority of these people who voted for this tyranny, and in some cases on multiple occasions, have been reelected. Why? These are but a few examples of how we the people fail to hold our elected representatives accountable, doing nothing but emboldening them to commit more tyranny against us by not holding their feet to the fire, or just flat-ass firing them. Are we that gullible, apathetic, ignorant, detached, or just plain stupid? The next quote. The wisest thing in the world is to cry out before you are hurt. It is no good to cry out after you are hurt, especially after you are mortally hurt. People talk about the impatience of the populace, but sound historians know that most tyrannies have been possible because men moved too late. It is often essential to resist tyranny before it exists. Quote by G.K. Charleston.
I wonder if you could tell people who G.K. Charleston is.
Actually, I don't know a whole lot about the man. This is a quote that was handed to me on another article that I wrote about 2 years ago. And when I was writing this article, I have a good mind. I remember quotes when I read them. And I knew that this would fit quite well, because basically what it says is, don't wait till after you're dead to scream. You need to scream before you're dead.
Right. And it's actually Chesterton, C-H-E-S.
My mistake. Yes.
Let anybody look it up, though. G.K. Chesterton, C-H-E-S-T-E-R-T-O-N. Look him up, okay? Right. Go ahead. I'm sorry. I just wanted to throw that in there.
At any point in time, any point in the history of this country, even a large minority of this country's population could have taken a stand to push back against encroaching corporatism or tyranny. It hasn't happened. Most Americans are blissfully and intentionally ignorant of the tyranny unfolding right before their eyes, choosing to maintain the mindset, if I'm doing nothing wrong, this won't influence my life. Bullcrap! Okay? I did skip a paragraph. Let me go back to that. Yes, American as a society is highly ignorant of the inner workings of our government. Probably the most ignorant and detached society on this planet. A majority of Americans are too damn lazy to do the required research into how exactly we are each represented. Instead, we place immense trust on the people we elect, wanting to believe to our very core they will know what is best for us and will always have our best interest in as their motivations. Bull crap! And then, again, to the next paragraph, which I'll reiterate. At any point in time, even a large minority of this country's population could have taken a stand to push back against encroaching corporatism or tyranny. It hasn't happened. It might soon. I do see an awakening, but it hasn't happened as of yet. Most Americans are blissfully and intentionally ignorant of the tyranny unfolding right before their eyes, choosing to maintain the mindset, if I'm doing nothing wrong, this won't influence my life. Again, bull crap. Let's go to our next quote. If ye love, wealth, better than liberty, the tranquility of servitude, better than the animating contest of freedom, go home from us in peace. We ask not your counsel or arms. Crouch down and lick the hands that feed you. May your chains set lightly upon you, and may posterity forget that ye were our countrymen. Samuel Adams. And this applies to so many of our countrymen today. So the next time you rant about the abhorrent economic and political conditions in America, look in the mirror to find the biggest and most responsible culprit. We the people. Because at any point in time, an involved and educated people could have changed this scenario. Next quote. Tyranny is always better organized than freedom. Charles Pegway. We are over 300 million strong, while they number a few thousand. And any real change for the better in this country must begin with us recognizing our monumental failure in this long-running experiment called America. So shut off your TV, okay? Get off your couch. Get educated. Be involved. Take America back one booted senator, congressman, governor, mayor, councilman, or bureaucrat at a time, if necessary. It is well past time for we the people to wake up and unite our voices and put America back on the path of greatness she has through our neglect as the true stewards of this republic so egregiously steered off. Please remember, this has always been and remains our duty. And there is no better time to start than now. I don't know how many of you are aware of what recalls are, but they're a tool that we can use. It's time to throw out the trash. Now, there's a meme here I made up with the Liberty Bell on it. And I'm going to read the contents of that meme. Corruption, cronyism, and tyranny are very predictable in a logical fashion. All one need do is ignore those who hold the reins of power, and their institution and maturation is guaranteed. Likewise, the solution is also predictable in a very logical fashion. All we the people need do is step up and in a unified and commanding voice reclaim our rightful governorship. The litmus test. Will enough of us heed the call of liberty? Last quote. The greatness of America lies not in being more enlightened than any other nation, but rather in her ability to repair her faults. It's time to repair. Now, let's go back to the opening quote, and this quote came from me, okay? This is a nation of, by, and for the people. If it perishes, it does so by our hands. and not by the actions of any tyrannical government. If you believe me to be wrong, you are part of the problem, not the solution. The solution is awake and aware and a knowledgeable population. With the numbers we have, there is nothing we cannot change in this country. And if you believe that quote I just gave you is wrong, you are the problem. And hold on, let me finish this off. If you are the problem, I'll reread one quote again, because this applies directly to you. If ye love wealth better than liberty, the tranquility of servitude better than the animating contest of freedom, go home from us in peace. We ask not your counsels or arms. Crouch down and lick the hands which feed you. May your chains set lightly upon you, and may posterity forget that ye were our countrymen. If you think I don't believe that and mean it, you're wrong. Sorry, Chuck. I get a little emotional with this.
Look, I know you do, and so do I. Because, after all, this is what I talk about all the time also, the country that we were promised versus what it is we are confronted with at this point in time. And the true responsibility does lie with the people, because we are... Yeah, we are actually at the top of the food chain regarding where the power is supposed to reside in this country. That is where it's supposed to be.
Do you remember on your show about, I think it might have been about 2 months ago, where I told you that I had done one of those surveys that I just explained in my article here while I was reading the article. I had done another one a while before that, whereby I asked people to rank the powers of the governance in this country from the federal to the individual. And each and every one of them, with the exception of one person, put the federal government at the top, the state government in the middle, and we the people at the bottom. Because this is what the government has propagandized for a century. This is what they want you to believe. And it's only due to the fact that so many of us are too freaking lazy to do any research. They haven't got a clue that you sit higher on the food chain than the President of the United States, any senator, any congressman, or anybody in the Supreme Court does.
But that's the reality versus, the fairy tale, and the fairy tale is what's been sold, as you said. And here is yet another thing. I'm getting all these emails and messages and propaganda coming my way now for the draft Ted Cruz for president. Okay, and. Now, when you think about that, you're laughing. But
yes, I am.
I was laughing at first, but then when I started to see this stuff really coming at me, I was like, "You're kidding me!" There are people that believe that this is the solution to the problems. See, that's the real problem here, where they think that, well, look, if I just switch sides here on the coin, it's not necessarily the same quarter. You know what I mean? This is where the problem is.
It goes much, much, much deeper than that, because what I need to tell everybody out there is this plays right back into the laziness and the disconnect of the American people. Let's put somebody up there who sounds good in sound bites, who may have done, if you don't think this man is not bought and paid for, like everybody else up there is, you're an idiot. But maybe they allow him a little bit more leeway to push him up into the daylight so people will listen to what he has to say. But this is where you falter, people, because what you're doing is you're saying, if we could just make Ted Cruz the president, I could go back to sitting on my couch, watching my TV, ignoring what's going on in this country, and let a good man lead this country back to a strong, healthy republic. It won't happen unless you wake up, and you wake up, and millions of us wake up, and all unify our voice and push back. One man isn't going to change a damn thing. It won't happen. And every time somebody says, well, you know, this would change if this guy was president, I look at them and I go, you're a freaking idiot.
That's the thing. The presidency is you know,
bought and paid for.
Bought and paid for, but it's a puppet position at this point.
It
And in reality, even in the best of all scenarios here, we are still the ones who are supposed to be in charge.
Yes.
Okay? It is not a matter of electing a leader so that we can put things on autopilot. This is exactly like what you're saying. Now, of course, there was the other discussion here, which is, and of course, Ron Paul comes up in my mind, okay, because, look, there was a lot of hope there. Okay, there was the idea among a lot of us that Ron Paul would actually change the equation. I mean, I felt that way, you know. In
at least until they assassinated him.
Well, right, until they basically infiltrated his organization, co-opted him, and controlled his demise. I mean, and that was what was meant to happen to begin with, of course. And this is always what seems to happen. But here's the problem. I think that if we somehow came up with a way to stop participating in all that nonsense and making it so that it's, you know, the money game, I mean, we've got to change this equation, and it's from a whole lot of different directions, Roger. You know, I mean,
we need to put, each and every one of us need to be well aware of everything that goes on, and not everything, but enough of what goes on in Washington, D.C. to keep a tyranny check on these idiots. But we need to disassociate ourselves from believing they are the power in this country. And we need to, at a grassroots level, start to rebuild this republic from the precinct level on up. That is what's going to change this country. Anybody who believes that change is going to come from Washington, D.C., I've got a bridge to sell you, and you're probably going to buy it.
Well, right, and I can definitely sell you some wonderful oceanfront property, you know, somewhere in New Mexico. Not a problem. Right there on the Atlantic Ocean. How about that? Enjoy yourselves there, and I'll sell it to you all day. I got plenty of it. But this is the thing. I mean, okay. So now the individual listener says to themselves, you know what, Roger, you're right. This is exactly the way it is. You're correct. What do we do? What do? We start changing things on a local level. We start making moves as far as our sheriffs go, our mayors, our town council. I mean, is this where we begin to make changes? Is to put people in there that are not, part of the bought and paid for system on a local level? Because
everybody above them is elected by those below them. Mm-hmm. If you're going to start to fix this system, who do you think elects the state representatives? Who do you think? Every single part of the structure depends on what is below it. That's why we are propagandized so heavily. The precinct captains are the people and the actual people who are involved in elections and your local precincts. These are the positions we need to go after first. These are the positions we need to capture. If we capture every precinct within this country, we control the system. Period. We control the system. It is a grassroots movement. We the people are grassroots. We are. So if you don't believe, or if you do believe it's a waste of time to put that effort in to something as low on the food chain as your local precinct members and your local precinct captain, then again, you're one of those ignorant people that has handed your power to this federal government, which is using it to perpetrate tyranny on you every single day. It has to start at the local level. And a precinct is no bigger than a couple of damn city blocks. vital.
Well, of course, if this did happen, this would allow, again, like you said in the article there, a minority of individuals could seriously affect a change if they even captured, a significant number of these local precincts.
10% of this country could afford change. 20% of this country could afford big change. 30% of this country could change it back to what it should be. And these are active, not people who sit on the internet and say, oh yeah, I like that. Oh, here's a like. Oh yeah, or place a comment. I'm talking about people who physically we had 100 million people, 30%, 100 million people in this country actively involved, we would constitute a force that could not be stopped. Period.
Well, that's the thing. That would be the significant amount of leverage. I mean, and where are we at regarding that at this point in time? I mean,
Less than 10%.
Yeah, I mean that's where we are. I was going to figure that, and of course we could go back and forth about exactly what level we're truly at. I mean,
People are waking up quickly, Chuck.
But
there are a lot of people waking up.
Well, here's the thing, and
what are they doing?
And I'm going to make an honest admission to you here. I'm pretty much disengaged from the voting process at this point, and so have a lot of other people that I know, right? Because we feel like no matter what we do, our voice is not heard. You know what I'm saying?
Well, again, it isn't until we take over enough of the local precincts, then we control the voting system at that point. We can say, take your electronic voting machine and stuff it up your rectum. We're going to use paper ballots. No, you're not going to take the paper ballots out of this building because I'm the precinct captain and everybody on this precinct committee is in agreement. We're going to count those ballots right here and we're going to phone them directly, not only into the local headquarters, but we're going to phone them directly into the alternative and the mainstream media, the true and mainstream media, as soon as we're done counting. We can, by that local, by capturing these local precincts, we can bring the voting system back under our control. Do I agree with you that as it stands, it's useless to vote? Yes. Do I see a way to bring the power of the vote back to the people? Yes. What is it? It's take over your local precinct. If 30% of the precincts in this country belong to the people who feel in line with this article I just read, we would control the ballot box in this country again.
Well, that would be an amazing thing because, as I've said, not since I was very young did I even feel as though there was legitimacy to the system, behind getting anybody elected. And I mean,
good instinct.
From your dog catcher, on up to the president. Basically, it's all the same thing. It's all, involved in the same matrix, as it were. And the foolishness that goes on out there. I mean, there are people that literally just walk in there and flip all down one side of the ballot, assuming that, okay, red or blue, take your pick. But either way, I'm going to vote all red. I'm going to vote all blue. And that's all I'm going to do. Never looking at the individuals, never looking.
Look at me, I'm a patriot. I went and voted. Okay, do you know what you voted for? Do you know who you voted for? Did you look at any of the referendums on that ballot before you clicked them all because a Republican said you should? Do you understand what they've just done to your liberties? But no, that person will walk into a bar that night, throw his chest out and say, yeah, I just went and voted. I'm a patriotic American. And what you are is you're a sheep. You're a cattle. You've got a ring through your nose with a chain on it, and they are leading you exactly where they want you to go.
Well, exactly. And, and it's very, very funny because, of course, I've seen these presentations done, where people are presented with a piece of paper saying, "Look, we're taking a poll, we're voting among the public here, and we want to get this particular chemical banned." And they bring it around to people, and they present it as some sort of evil chemical, and a whole bunch of people sign their names and give their identification and do all sorts of things, and that's right, and definitely, yeah, sure, because they want to buy the packaging, and it turns out they're banning something like water. Okay.
I saw something like that done. I saw a video on YouTube not too long ago. I can't remember the name of it, where a guy went around basically asking people to sign a petition on the street, a busy street. I think it was in Los Angeles. And when they said, what's the petition about? Because they're just too busy to read it. And he would say, well, we want to stop things like hate speech and stuff like that. So they would sign it. And he got over 100 people to sign it before one person finally said, well, let me read through this first. And he said, hold on a second. Basically what you want to do is take away my First Amendment right, my freedom of speech. I'm not signing this. But the first 100 people that came by, because he said we want to eliminate hate speech, which by banning your freedom of speech would eliminate hate speech, so he wasn't lying. These idiots signed that petition. Sight unseen.
Right, sight unseen, exactly, and it's a perfect example, and it's been done many, many times. There's a whole lot of them out there where people have done this very same experiment. I mean, it's not unique. Like I said, banning water. Banning water. There's a chemical compound that's around here a lot that's rather dangerous, and so many people, and what they do is they cite the statistics of people drowning and things like this.
Yeah, it's full of hydrogen.
And it's full of hydrogen. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and they sign a petition stating that they are all for banning water. Hello, you know, yeah. But it's all about the packaging and the presentation. Nobody reads this stuff, and they sign away their lives. And this is what they're doing on a mass scale regarding a lot of this votings, these referendums that are are out there in such a way that you see a TV commercial, so that happens to be the guy that you think is wearing the right color tie, so therefore you vote for it, or therefore you vote against it, and it's so bad that people just don't educate themselves about even what they're refusing to sign into being. All of this stuff.
Well, let's go back to the topic of the article I wrote. It's time for we the people to stop blaming everybody but ourselves. And I'll read this one more time, not the title, but my quote, okay? Mm-hmm. This is a nation of, by, and for the people. If it perishes, it does so by our hands and not by the actions of any tyrannical government. Stop and think about what I've said, people. Stop and think about that. Put it in your brain. Shake your head up real good, because basically I am so sick and tired of us complaining about everybody who has screwed us over when we, in fact, have allowed all of this to happen. The majority of the blame for the crap heap we find ourselves wading through in what is called America today is our fault. I dare anybody to show me where I'm wrong. You can't.
Well, that is the reality of the situation, Roger. I mean, this is where we're at. I mean, and unfortunately, yeah, there is plenty of vote manipulation, as it were, not voter fraud, but vote fraud. As you alluded to really quickly there, regarding how things are counted up and how things are being done in the electronic machines, and let's not just take it out of the building to count it. Let's take it out of the country to count it. All of these things going on.
About that.
Yeah, right. The usual suspects, but still.
But I got to interject here. If I was going to put anybody in control of over 60% of the votes counted in a U.S. presidential election, which of course does elect congressmen and senators as well, but the last person in the world I would allow to own that company and have the votes counted across the Atlantic Ocean in Europe is George freaking Soros. Give me a break, people!
And you know, when you try and explain this to some people, they don't even they just well, you know,
they don't know who George Soros is.
That's the first problem, right? The second problem is, well, that just sounds too crazy to be true. You know, a lot of things sound too crazy to be true, and we've covered a lot of them.
They only sound too crazy to be true to the uneducated and the ignorant.
Well, and this is true, but, at the same time, I mean, on some level, I almost don't blame them for some of that stuff because, look, we've covered a lot of different topics on here. We've covered vaccinations, which, look, your doctors aren't supposed to be out to hurt you. They shouldn't be out to cripple your children. They shouldn't be out to destroy your immune system. But them pushing the vaccines, they are. Chemtrails. Why is it that airplanes would spray crap over populations when these pilots have to land someday and they got to live among those populations too? But guess what? It happens. Why is it that
GMOs? Why is 85 to 90% of everything you eat been scientifically peer-reviewed, proven to be detrimental to human physiology and the biosphere?
Oh, and reproduction. Let's not forget that.
Oh yeah.
Reproduction. I mean, they're literally.
Well, if you want to do reproduction, you've got to talk about vaccines. You've got to talk about pharmaceuticals. You've got to talk about GMOs. You've got to talk about aerial spraying. Those all kill fertility.
Oh, I didn't even get to all that, But I'm just saying, and we have covered all this stuff.
Yes.
And the funny thing is that there are still so many people out there that say, well, why would they put it in food if it was that bad for you? Well, why would they spray it in the air if it was that bad for you? Why would the doctors give it to you if it was that bad for you?
If I told you people sitting out there, and I think I've said this on your show once before, if I told you people that big pharmaceutical companies, the conglomerate, big pharmaceutical conglomerate, is responsible for more deaths than every war in the history of this planet combined, a lot of you would push back. But yet, I can prove that to you. Now, tell me again how safe their vaccines and their drugs are, because vaccines come from pharmaceutical companies. If I can prove to you that they are responsible, but yet we push back in horror again, or at least we used to, not so much anymore. We allow millions to be killed in the Middle East and don't even bat an eyelash anymore as a society, not even one war rally. But we look upon killing people in wartime as horrible. But yet, every war in the history of this planet combined, all of that total does not equal the death that big pharmaceutical is responsible for. But yet, we think big pharmaceutical, most people hold them in such high regard. They are the shining light of modern medicine. Nothing can be further from the truth.
If you're up for it, I think we should actually break that down on the next show. I really do.
On your next show? Oh, my God. I would do that so willingly.
That to me would be a landmark. To do that one. I would love to.
Write an in-depth article for that show about that topic.
Well, that would be perfect because I'll tell you what, I would love to sit here and run those numbers and show people that is the reality. Because, again, this is still one of those things that so many people are trusting. And I understand.
I can give you a synopsis real quick. Just like a minute or two on that right now. Let's go to the fact that 95,000 people, die. Or actually, 127 to 130,000 people in the year 2011 were dying on a yearly basis due to misprescribed drugs or drugs legally prescribed drugs. Today, it is estimated to be approximately 150,000 a year. Now, what we do understand is, and the government tells us themselves, as few as 10% of these overdose deaths are actually reported and counted on a yearly basis. So, let's take 10 times 130,000. That's 1.3 million. Okay? We have been the most drug nation on this planet for almost a century. 1.3 million times 100 is 130 million. That's just the drugs. If we add the vaccines in, we're well over 200 million. If we add in all of the deaths due to things like glyphosate and other things, we're easily at 250 million. How many people have died in all of the wars on this planet combined? I would guesstimate that it doesn't come close to or doesn't bump up over 250 million people. You want it broken down? I will prove to you that these mechanisms you just mentioned are responsible for well over 250 million people, and I have just explained to you how I can justify 250 million people having died since the early 1920s up until today.
Right, so in less than 100 years, this is where we're at. And this is something, but I do think it's something that if we break it down bit by bit and talk about each one of the, I think it would be extremely worthwhile, because I don't think anybody recognizes, even those of us who are against, Big Pharma having the role in society that it does, that are against the chemical warfare which is being conducted against humanity at this point in time. And meanwhile, Roger, you're being generous here, because honestly, we both know that there are a whole lot more deaths that are not reportable when it comes to this stuff. There are plenty of heart failures out there that I guarantee you are directly linked to different pharmaceutical drugs.
You live in an area that is heavily sprayed from the air and has fluoridated water and grows a lot of GMO foods on the farms around you, like California, okay? How many of those heart attacks, how many of those cancers, how many of those autoimmune dysfunctions, how many of those brain dysfunctions or brain damage, how many of those are caused by, if one is bad, if drinking fluoride is bad for you, and can give you cancer over a 20-year period. How bad is it if you're drinking the water, breathing the air, getting the vaccines, taking the drugs, and eating the GMOs every day, all the time? I'm telling you, I agree with you, Chuck. What I was giving you was government statistics.
Oh, yeah.
They're saying that 250 million people have died. I'm telling you that's ridiculously low.
Well, even worse than that, now I'm going to just pile on one more thing, and then I'm going to let you go, but let's just consider this. How many suicides would be preventable?
That statistic will be in the article I'm going to write.
Yeah, but there's SSRIs, of course, which, say on the packaging, say in the warnings themselves, can cause suicidal ideation, can cause suicidal actions, can cause suicide even.
22 veterans every single day in this country commit suicide. They're not a very big demographic in this country, but that is a hugely out of proportion number for a small number or a small demographic. 22 people every day. Now, of those 22 people that commit suicide, veterans, every single day in this country, a huge shame on this country, it is a fact that well over 90% of them are either on psychotropic or psychiatric drugs, which have a side effect that clearly state may promote incidences of suicide.
Yes, and yes. And meanwhile, like you said, that's only a sample demographic, really. That's a very small demographic we're talking about. But when you talk about 22 people a day, it's still out of proportion with the population at large. Wonder what they have in common. Oh, wait a minute. They're all being treated by the government-controlled medical establishment, aren't they?
The medical industrial complex.
Oh. See, that's...
MIC.
Yeah, isn't that interesting? Isn't that interesting? So what you're telling me is when the government regulations are all there and we're supposed to be taking care of these individuals who have essentially signed on to lay down their lives and in some cases their souls in order to defend our freedoms, as it were, regardless of how you feel about the wars and the actions that have taken place on this planet, what you're telling me is that the best possible care that our loving government gives them leads to this kind of stuff. This is another issue.
I'm going to take it even one step further than that, because it is so actually so blatant that and the fact that people can't see it absolutely amazes me, but that's because my eyes are so wide open and I delve in this stuff every day. I wrote an article and published it yesterday. And the article is called Hepatitis B Vaccine, A Deadly Roll of Dice. Now, what I'm about to read to you is straight from this medical industrial complex, okay? What I'm about to read to you, you can go right back to these people and look at the very words they said. Okay. Now, the hepatitis B vaccine. The Association of American Physicians and Surgeons states that the risk of vaccine damage to an infant may be as much as 100 times greater than the risk of hepatitis B itself. Because hepatitis B vaccine has been tied to lupus, liver damage, sudden infant death syndrome, and multiple sclerosis. Stop and think about that. This is the Association of American Physicians and Surgeons telling you that the hepatitis B vaccine has a 1,000%, 100 times, 1,000% higher risk of doing damage to your child than hepatitis B ever would. Why the hell would anybody ever have their child given a hepatitis B shot? Why?
Well, see, and this is exactly, I don't know if I ever told you this, Roger, but I was confronted with this 6 months ago. You know that, right?
Yes.
I had him in the hospital. Did I tell you about that?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Well, just really quickly to recap it for everybody, I had a pediatrician trying to tell me that before my son left the hospital that he needed to have the hepatitis B vaccine.
Because he was going to go out, smoke some crack with a junkie, shoot up with a dirty needle, have anal intercourse, or one of those things, because that's about the only way your son, as an infant, would ever have caught hepatitis B.
Well, it's
unless your wife had it when she was pregnant.
Well, it's funny because I said to the pediatrician and to a couple of people standing there, and they were kind of dumbfounded by me. I said, realistically, I said, so long as he is not being tattooed, having sex, or shooting intravenous drugs anytime soon, what would be the purpose of taking the risk with his health of having this vaccine introduced into his system?
Yes.
That was my question, and
yes.
that was as blandly as I could put it, Roger. I mean, I really couldn't think of a more bland way to put it.
And you've got me past the hour, but let me explain a little bit about that, because hepatitis B is not highly contagious. Unlike other infectious diseases for which vaccines have been developed and mandated in the U.S., hepatitis B is not common in childhood and is not highly contagious. Hepatitis B is primarily an adult disease transmitted through infected body fluids, okay? Most frequently infected blood. Where is your child going to be exposed to any of this?
Well, that's why I said, look, if I was having him tattooed, if he was going to be shooting up drugs or having sex, well, there might be some reasoning behind this.
But now your child cannot go into, can't go into daycare, can't go into kindergarten, can't go into and a lot of programs, and can't even go into college unless they have the hepatitis B vaccine. Yeah. So in essence, it's now mandatory, and yet I've told you that these surgeons and physicians 1,000%, 1,000% more risky than the chances of that child ever being exposed to hepatitis B. But ask me how many millions of dollars Big Pharma makes off the Hep B shot every single year, because every single doctor in every single hospital tells every single mother, your child has to have this shot.
Well, exactly, and this is part of what I'm being confronted with now, of course. But you know what? He's still not getting it. I'm telling you that now. I had this discussion with Kim actually just the other day, and I said, you know what? If this kid decides when he gets older that he's going to accept these vaccines, then that's his decision. But at this time, while I'm making his decisions, this is not going to happen, and she absolutely agrees with me, and that's why they did sneak in a vitamin K on him really quick, but they were told at that point that they were not to inject or introduce anything else into my infant without my express consent.
We won't even talk about the vitamin K shot, but all that we have been discussing, and this is my wrap-up comment, including the vaccines, including the GMOs, big pharmaceutical, all of that falls under the realm of we have given our power of control away, and we have done it, albeit through ignorance, we have done it willingly. Okay? It all goes back to that very, very blatant title. It's time for we the people to stop blaming everybody but ourselves. And with that, Chuck, I'm sorry, my friend, but I have got to go.
No, I appreciate it, Roger, and I'm very happy that you're on here every time you are, and I can't tell you how grateful I am. I enjoy it, Chuck. I really do. We always seem to go off into one or more directions, sometimes directly relating to the article, sometimes going around the article, but I love it every single Tuesday. This is one of the best shows that I do all the time, and that's why you're the man that I've been on the air with the most. So
I don't know if I should say that's great or gee, I'm sorry.
Well, it depends. If you're talking about
I'm only 60 years old. Don't mention depends.
Yeah. Oh, okay. But you could apologize for being on the air with me, maybe, but not for what you say or what you do ever. Everybody, as I say every week, go to thelibertybeacon, all one word, .com. Check out the article we were talking about tonight and a plethora of great information and all of the great stuff that's going on. And maybe next week, if we have time, also we'll get into some of the other things that are going on in the Liberty Beacon realm, as it were, because I know there's a great many other projects that are upcoming and are actually in progress that we don't necessarily know a lot about, and I do want to get into those as well.
Well, you're going to get more than 60 minutes next week because the topic you want to broach is we cannot go over it accurately. We can't even summarize it accurately in 60 minutes.
Right.
So you'll get at least 90. You might get a full 2 hours next week.
Well, there we go. See? So, Roger, with that, I'll let you go because I know you're extremely busy. And, again, I do appreciate the fact that you take the time every Tuesday to do this with me because this is exactly the stuff that needs to get out. And I'm just extremely grateful to you. And I hope that you have a good night. And, Don't let your blood pressure get up too high.
I'm as healthy as a bull. I really am.
Well, I know you are, but I worry a little bit because you get really, really intense about some of this stuff, and I don't want to see you debilitated in any way, shape, or form.
My intensity glands have been exercised so much, and my intensity muscles have been exercised so much that that's almost the norm to them anymore. All right, Chuck. Please understand, my friend, you as well are very appreciated. And I will talk to you again soon.
Excellent. So, Roger Landry, everybody. Landry, if you ever want to look him up. Also, Liberty Beacon Rants on YouTube. You can check out a lot of the stuff that he does there. And like I said, thelibertybeacon, all one word.com. And also, The Falling Darkness, all one word.com. Not necessarily for Roger's stuff, but another part of the Liberty Beacon project as it stands now. And there will be more announcements about more things that are coming up very, very soon. Hopefully next week, like I said, we'll get to cover some of that, although it may take the full 2 hours to go into what we were discussing tonight about doing next week. So we shall see. So, as I proceed forward, and again, thanks, Roger, we will dig up. I guess I had an invite out to a couple of people, but who knows who might show up. I'm going to go into something because, of course, on the roundtable shows that we did this past weekend, we had a rather spirited discussion. Andrew Ochelli showed up, Cold Reality News, right here on UCY. He showed up toward the end of the Jaded show, which is Kim's show on Saturday night. Roger, of course, showed up on there. Maria Heller, Lee Peer, Brandon Council, April Bowden, of course, from Truth or Talk Radio, who's also heard here on UCY. It was a pretty interesting night, and of course we wound up discussing the politics of race and all of this kind of good stuff because of a caller that was making certain statements. And Ochelli came in, and I'll tell you, I was a little bit kind of struggling because I was tired and not really going into it, but trying to recall in my own mind where the strategy of racial divides and the divide and conquer mechanism of racial politics, which of course has been extremely notable in the news lately, especially post-Ferguson, as it were. During the what should be the police state discussion, during the militarization of the police discussion, during the ramping up of the dominance over the population, as it were. Well, Ochelli came on and brought up something, and cited something from a book by Professor Henry Makow, Makow, and that got me thinking again. So tip of the hat to Shaliak. Let me say something here. I decided to go ahead and invite Mr. Makow to see if he wanted to come on my show, and we'll let you know if that happens, because I definitely started to delve into some of the things that he has online, and wanted to read to you about it, actually. So, interesting graphic at the top of this article with a quote from our friend Eric Blair, a.k.a. George Orwell. That guy who wrote that book, right? Okay, political language is designed to make lies sound truthful and murder respectable. That is the quote from George Orwell. Okay? So, the title of the article, let's see now, is Doublespeak, 10 Illuminati Buzzwords. Now, I do kind of object to the use of the word Illuminati, but as we move forward in this article, you'll probably see why I thought it was quite well worth reading to you. Okay. So, again, by Dr. Henry Makow, Ph.D., okay, in the quote above, Orwell did not go far enough. Political language is designed not only to make lies sound truthful, but to substitute a permanent bogus reality based on their perverse political and occult agenda. The agenda can only be understood in terms of the big picture. The human malaise is due to the fact that the Kabbalist, Illuminati, bankers wish to depose God. In practice, this means reality must be turned upside down. They, and not God, and then, well, in parentheses, reality, define, quote, truth, end quote. They define it in terms of their perversions and megalomania. As Otto Kahn, who was pictured left in the article, admitted above, they are using the Jewish people as their instrument to impose a permanent servitude on the human race. We shall purify the idea of God by identifying it with the Jewish people. That's in quotes. In other words, the Jewish leadership, the Illuminati bankers, are God, and Jews and Freemasons are their tools. A system that turns reality upside down is satanic. I hate giving credit to Satan. Oh, my departure from the article, sorry. Lies are accepted as truth. Evil is good, sick is healthy, ugly is beautiful, and unnatural is natural. Kabbalist Judaism, i.e. the Illuminati, is a satanic cult which advocates all these things. Organized Jewry and Freemasonry are its instrument. As mankind is inducted into this unreality, inevitability, language itself is inverted and becomes a part of the oppression. Below I give some examples of the warped Illuminati lexicon. Now, of course, this is the main body of the article which most interests me. So, number 1, quote, terrorist, end quote. Anyone whom the Illuminati banker-controlled media decide is a terrorist. Terrorists who advance the Illuminati cause and are trained, this is in parentheses, and are trained and funded by them, end parentheses, are not terrorists, but insurgents. Excuse me. Palestinians who shoot pop-gun rockets and kill 1 to 2 Israelis are terrorists. They have terror tunnels, that is in quotes, although no terror attacks have emanated from them. Israelis who use airplanes, missiles, and bombs to kill over 2,000 civilians, including 500 children, and demolish apartment blocks are not, quote, terrorists. They are, quote, defending themselves. When ISIS is taking down Syria's Assad, they are insurgents. When they are beheading Christians and becoming the next Illuminati boogeymen, they are, quote, terrorists, end quote, again. Number 2, hate and hate speech. Both hate and hate speech are in quotes. Next is resistance to the Illuminati's hateful plan to dehumanize and enslave the human race. The Talmud, which treats non-Jews as animals, suitable only to serve Jews, is the real hate, but is never recognized as such. Instead, they invert the truth and pretend that exposing the Talmudic agenda is, quote, hate, end quote. Number 3. Anti-Semitism is supposedly a racial prejudice. However, Jewish bankers admit to using Jews to replace God, and then in red letters it says, abolish all other races, nations, and religions, and establish a satanic dispensation on earth. Using Jews in this fashion is the real, quote, anti-Semitism, end quote. The Illuminati buzzword, quote, anti-Semitism, end quote, is actually, in red letters, resistance to this attack on God and man. Okay. Number 4, homophobia. Another loaded Illuminati buzzword is supposedly hatred of homosexuals. It is actually resistance to the Illuminati Jewish attack on gender identity under the guise of, quote, gay rights, end quote. The real hate, and that phrase is in red letters, is heterophobia, the attack on heterosexual institutions like marriage and family. There are 4 million links to homophobia on Google, 25 times as many as heterophobia, 160,000. Heterophobia is barely recognized as a word, an example of how language is used to reshape society. 5. Racism, in quotes, supposedly is hostility to other races. An anti-racist, in quotes, denies there may be differences between races worth preserving and advocates misgeneration. Okay. Now I lost my place. So that races disappear altogether. Okay. In fact, when they don't claim to be superior, so-called, quote, racists are the best friends of other races because they celebrate differences. Quote, anti-racists are the real racists. 6. Sexism is supposedly hostility to women. To be, quote, anti-sexist, end quote, is to deny differences between women and men, and to advocate women behave like men. In fact, by acknowledging the difference between the sexes, sexists are women's best friends. Similarly, feminism pretends to champion women while denying their femininity and encouraging lesbianism. Number 7, diversity. In quotes. Next, pretends to celebrate all ethnic and sexual differences. In fact, it is aimed at curbing genuine diversity. By, in red letters, this phrase upcoming is, eradicating the influence, no red letters, of European Christian heterosexual culture. Okay, number 8, isolationist. In quotes, is someone who opposes using their country's resources and young men to advance the bankers' imperialist satanic agenda. Quote, fighting for freedom, end quote, is actually fighting for slavery. Parentheses, by example, the nation's resources fighting wars designed to enrich the bankers and kill Goyim. Number 9, human rights, in quotes. Ought to be in double quotes. These are privileges conferred on people who can be used, now the next part is in red letters, to deprive other people of their human rights, end red letters. Quote, gay rights, for example, are used to undermine the heterosexual and family identity of 98% of the population by convincing them that sick is healthy and unnatural is natural. Number 10. Patriot Act. Okay, the name uses the 9/11 Illuminati false flag to gut real human rights and justify constant war and surveillance. It is the Treason Act, in quotes. Truly we have entered an Orwellian era of doublespeak. Kabbalists are reality creators. They make reality through their ownership of the education system and the mass media. Naturally, they use language to invert the truth and slander their opponents. In their hands, language is our enemy. Now, I guess we go from the definitions and begin the summation. Back to the article. Let's reclaim those buzzwords and say I am proud to be an, quote, anti-Semite, homophobe, sexist, and racist, end quote. Because it means I am resisting tyranny and defending my identity. I demand real diversity, human rights, and patriotism, not doublespeak. The only real, quote, hate, end quote, and, quote, terror, end quote, originates from the Illuminati who hate both God and man. I welcome your suggestions for the Illuminati lexicon. Okay. So, note, here are 4 more Illuminati buzzwords. Conspiracy. According to the Illuminati media, quote, conspiracy, end quote, denotes the preposterous concept that some people might target others without advertising the fact and providing the victim with advance warning. In parentheses, in fact, Western society has been shaped by a Masonic Jewish conspiracy against God and man. End parenthesis. Quote, tolerance, end quote, is applied selectively, e.g., tolerance for, red letters starting, expression of occult beliefs, excuse me, and red letters, tolerance for, begin red letters again, tolerance for Christian belief, end red letters, similarly, free speech, in quotes, pornography is free speech, but criticism of homosexuality is hate. Quote, equality, the notion that different things are the same, i.e. gay marriage is the same as heterosexual marriage, men in combat are the same as women in combat. Well, now here is the first interesting post comment to it, because as he said, he invited people to add to it. First comment from Michael G. It says, a few words I would like to add to your lexicon are these. First one, discrimination. If you do not accept all forms of evil at all times, you are, quote, discriminating, end quote. Globalism. Next word. in quotes, global warming, in quotes, global economy, finish quotes. The globalists are tacking the word global in front of everything these days. Even before global warming, in quotes, was revealed as a hoax, it was never truly, quote, global, end quote, because it did not occur across 100% of the globe concurrently. There is no, quote, global economy, end quote, only sovereign economies being attacked at the same time. Another favorite phrase of theirs is, quote, this affects us all, end quote, i.e. we are all one. Does the death of Robin Williams really affect the citizens of Weimar? No. Okay, next word. Empowerment. Performing half-naked on a stage and simulating sex acts is called empowerment. Empowerment is in quotes. It is actually enslavement to handlers, immorality, and demonic forces. Notice how the feminists never protest the sexual objectification of Miley Cyrus. That is because she is promoting the same thing as they are. Sexual immorality. Okay, next word. Bullying. If you don't support gay supremacy, you are a, quote, bully, end quote. However, if you persecute Christians, you are not. So, there are a lot of other, let's see, a lot of other comments here, but that was the one that was most prominently posted, and kind of interesting. I really thought it would be interesting to get into the mind of Dr. Makow, and to see, you know, what's going on his website, and I thought that was a pretty good exemplar of what actually goes on regarding this. Now, do I agree with every single thing I just read? No, I don't. But the overall version of what is there is absolutely true. I find it remarkable that that still the use of the word Illuminati is a go-to, even for people that are quite educated. I don't think that Illuminati is quite the right word any longer. Is there a global conspiracy to do certain things? Yes. Is it at the root of the bankers? Yes. Is the Zionist cult out there a large part of it? Yes, but it is not the only player at the table, as it were. So, I don't know. There's a lot of other things that can be said here, and I guess I'll leave that for your judgment, that whole article there. And you know what? I'll probably get into some more of these things, and I do hope that he takes me up on my invitation. We shall soon see, because I only invited him today, but we'll see what happens. Okay. Anyway, since Tuesday night is always Liberty Beacon night, and I did recently get some questions about what is the Liberty Beacon or the Liberty Beacon Project, and so on and so forth. How about this? We'll go right to the About page on the libertybeacon.com, all one word, and take a look at exactly what it says for itself, and then maybe you guys will get why it is that that I'm on board with this part of it, and actually, always encourage Roger to join me, because Roger is awfully on point about 95% of the time. But let's look at what it was he founded and what the mission statement is, as it were. Okay. The mission of the Liberty Beacon Project is to publish pertinent websites and produce media content, podcasts, telepodcasts, video magazines, blogs, internet TV shows, etc., as well as to increase access to the abundance of uncoordinated alternative source media to the Liberty movement. Okay, any and all who wish to be informed and educated as to reality in the climate of political, social, health, and economic turmoil. Hey, Dylan, how you doing?
Hi, Chuck. Sorry about that.
Not a problem. Not a problem, young man. I was reading an interesting article, and now I'm just finishing up with the Liberty Beacon mission statement. And just want to finish that really quickly if these stupid pop-ups will go away long enough. Boy, oh boy, I don't know where these things are coming from, but they're driving me nuts.
Do you have ad block?
Yeah, I thought that I had everything blocked, but it's apparently not working now.
No, pop-ups ruin the internet.
Yes, they do. Okay. So I'm just going to finish up the Liberty Beacon mission statement, which won't take me too long, and then we can get right on into discussing things with you, okay? Okay, one thing we are all aware of is that the mainstream media is seriously remiss in its stated mission to keep the American people informed in real time on topics of importance by presenting timely and fact-based reporting of events as they occur, both in this country and across the globe. So, TLB will do this in earnest, knowing that an informed and educated society cannot and will not be subjugated. The Liberty Beacon Project presently consists of, well, this is probably outdated, 4 Facebook pages and manages over 10 more. 4 Facebook groups and admin over 30 more. 5 international websites with several more under construction. 5 domestic websites, a Twitter channel, a radio network, and a newly launched YouTube channel. Projects currently in progress include setting up a server to produce an in-house internet TV show, the launch of a social site for all of our project associates. TLB has a close association with approximately 400 groups and pages of like mind on Facebook and is partnered. Oh my goodness. Do you hear that?
Yep.
Wow, you heard that noise?
Yeah.
That was awful. Okay.
Yeah, I imagine.
All right. Where was? TLB has a close association with. Okay, right. All right. Let me start that paragraph again because it's the last one. Oof. Okay, the Liberty Beacon has a close association with approximately 400 groups and pages of like minds on Facebook and is partnered with several alternative, and in parentheses, true, media and health tyranny websites. We also benefit from close personal contacts with professionals, authors, media personnel, and journalists in many countries across the globe to provide us, in parentheses, as active contributors with real-time information you won't see or hear on the mainstream media. And this is just the beginning. And that is authored by Roger Landry, founder of the Liberty Beacon. So, there is your explanation for what the Liberty Beacon is.
You have people who don't know what it is?
I had that question come up because I guess new people have caught my show and they're going, what the hell is the Liberty Beacon exactly? And they don't go to the website, even though I say it every single week. Go to thelibertybeacon, all one word.com. I say it all the time.
Well, in fairness, the first time I listened to your show, I couldn't tell if you said Liberty Beacon or Liberty Bacon.
Making fun of the way I talk. Oh, this is going to be a good couple minutes with you, isn't it?
It's going to be fun.
I see. Well, look, at least I don't, start talking into myself like this. Like some people do, but that's okay, right?
Hey, you've got plenty of ammunition to use on me, and I've got just as much with you.
Yeah, it's always good to be taken down a peg by a teenager. I love it. Thank you very much. I don't.
It's always good to find a grown-up who's able to fight back.
There you go. And it is also. Well, you know what? No matter what you say, Dylan, it won't be anything worse than what my own daughter says to me. So it's all good. Okay.
Well, on that awkward note.
Yep. So, but you're working on it.
I'm trying.
So anyway, what's been going on, man?
Had history class again.
Oh, you're kidding me.
Had it today, and there were a couple.
Well, what? Okay. See, this is where I start to be afraid, very afraid, so...
This is where you start to be afraid with me, or where you continue to be afraid with me?
for the sake of this particular individual conversation, okay, we'll just say this is where I start to be afraid. Okay?
It wasn't anything nearly as bad as last time.
Wait, about what?
It's not nearly as bad as last time.
Are you sure?
Aliens, Chuck. That was last week.
Yeah, right. The aliens had gotten the Republicans elected, and okay, I recall, and yeah, I closed my eyes and rubbed my own forehead for a moment because I have to brace myself. But okay, well, let me ask you this. I mean, was there any discussion about this whole thing in France or what?
We haven't gone into current events yet. This was about history.
Oh, no. Okay, well, let's see. You couldn't be that far away from the Revolutionary War if you're going in a chronological sense.
Yeah, we're just after the Revolutionary War.
Oh, boy.
Yeah, this is going to be fun.
All right, so are we into the formation of the government of the United States?
Just before that, the Articles of Confederation.
Oh, no. Oh, no. Okay.
You're really afraid.
Well, let me see if I can get a grasp on this, okay? Because these are the guys who asked why, there was legitimately, I mean, with a straight face, wanted to know why there was no footage of, like Washington crossing the Delaware or his inauguration or whatever. So, as I hang my head about the youth of this country.
Join the club. They're my generation.
Oh, well, all right. Set this up for me. I mean, give me an idea what was being taught before the cluster discussion began.
We were talking about the teacher picked out 4 main issues with the Articles of Confederation.
Uh-huh. Well, do you recall what those 4 issues were, or was your head spinning too much by the time you left class?
I remember. My head was spinning, but I remember.
Okay.
Currency, debt, I forget what the 3rd one was, but the 4th one was no central government.
Ah. Your teacher seems to be trying to lead you guys in the right direction without necessarily pushing you there. Like he keeps leading the breadcrumbs and you guys are,
We're not picking them up. We're picking up breadcrumbs, but they're not the ones he's dropping.
No. The kids in your class are not picking up breadcrumbs at all. They're picking up pine cones and throwing them at, each other. That's what they're doing.
And saying those are breadcrumbs.
And saying, you're hungry? Here. That's about the way that's going. And I don't know the last time you tried to eat a pine cone, but not pleasant. Okay.
Have you tried?
No comment. Okay.
Okay.
Let's. I'll save that for another time. But okay, so let's get away from the allegories and let's talk about what's really happening. So the idea of a decentralized government, the idea of currency and debt, right?
Mm-hmm. I can't remember the 3rd.
These are 3 of the 4 points that you were going over, and all of these things are very valid for discussion and things that need to be considered by young people because they're essential parts of the reality around them. And look, here's the evolution of them. Here's how they came to be. I mean, that's pretty solid. Seems like reasonable. The teacher's not, just sleeping on you guys, right? So
when we have our discussions, yeah, he's kind of just sitting there shaking his head, not really sure what to do. Well,
yeah, but from their discussions, I mean, the fact that this guy doesn't just jump out a window, I'm going to give him props. So okay, so what came up regarding these issues, Dylan?
We talked about the 3 branches.
Ah, okay. So you discussed the executive, the judicial, and the legislative.
Yes, and that couldn't have been any more fun.
Oh my! All right,
president worked with the judicial branch and made the laws.
Okay.
One person thought the judicial branch regulated trade.
Well, okay, look. From like at face value, you could almost say, well, the people that are there to judge, the people that are part of the legal system, maybe they make the laws. I mean, kind of stupid, but okay, this is a possibilty, regarding.
I said it was better than the aliens.
Yeah, no,
So,
it's definitely. We're making progress. I mean, it's not ET phone, ET phone Ted Cruz, for God's sake. But okay. So okay, the judicial branch makes the laws with the president. Well, considering Obama's statements recently about basically being able to put out executive orders. Oh, go ahead.
No, they thought Obama was part of the Supreme Court.
Oh. Okay.
That's a little...
all right.
That's a little worse.
Well, that's, about akin to saying that I'm part of the presidential debates. But, okay. Moving on, what else?
And then we get fun again. We talked a little bit about the end of the Revolutionary War.
Oh.
One person asked why the fighting ended after the treaty. We went over the treaty.
Okay, so yeah. All right. Well, see, but this is plain stupidity as opposed to imaginative, freaky land. So plain stupidity. I don't know. It's almost comforting to me compared to
what you've been hearing.
Yeah, I mean, President Obama's involved in a black genocide, and I still say the most legitimate thing that you have brought me out of their questions of strangeness is, did we actually win? Who won the Revolutionary War, really? Yeah,
but that's not where they were going with it.
I know they asked the right question for the wrong reasons, but
yeah.
But okay. I give it to him anyway. I mean, you call it a pity point, but I give it to him.
No, I'll call it a pity point because I do feel pity on them. I'll give them that. Okay.
So, after the treaty, why did the fighting stop? Okay, fine. So, what else?
Well, my head started to spin because he actually did start to talk about current events. A little bit.
Which current events did they cover?
Paris.
Oh, okay. Which, by the way, what is your take on that before we get into your peers?
I'm not sure what to think.
Okay, you're in the same mode as me, then.
Yeah, I'm really conflicted. There's some weird stuff going on with it, but I'm not really ready to jump out and say definitively either way.
Yeah, I mean, see, that's where I'm at with it, too. The whole thing is extremely suspicious. It definitely feeds into the narrative, propagates the Islamo-fascist boogeyman, does all that stuff. And of course, my immediate statement, I still say, is rather valid, that, isn't that interesting that they get away in France, but the shooter would have been killed here at least. But okay.
You have a strong hatred for the French. I forgot about that.
Yeah, of course.
We're going to have to do a show on not your hatred of France, but this specific event, because I think we'll have a lot of fun discussion on that.
Oh, I don't see, but for that, I'm actually trying to get a couple of people in France, believe it or not, to participate in the discussion. Because
I know one French person that I could talk to.
Well, if you can get them, I would appreciate them, because I'd love to hear what the French personal perspective is.
They probably won't appreciate your absolute hatred for the French.
Oh, and if you want to hear disdain, you'll probably hear it from me coming out of every question I ask, but...
Oh, I know. We did a whole 15 minutes once on your hatred of France, and
you know what? If you want to do us both a favor, bring Ken in on that too, because he asks the best questions, and I might be able to contain myself if he's asking questions. So, okay, put that aside though. So you still don't know what to make of it either. All right. And that's where I'm holding my position right now, because, I'm not sure if we're looking at something that was staged, provoked, if it was...
I would say, if anything, provoked.
I mean, it was definitely encouraged, in my opinion. Of course, the French had them on their radar, and then they seemed to act, fine, and now we're going to bring it to the Anwar al-Awlaki thing, and tying it back to that underwear bomber debacle, and,
Are they really getting back into Anwar? Can't we stop beating a dead horse and the dead horse's kid?
No, it's not possible, because, of course, he is the exemplar for these radicalized Westerners, So.
Oh, of course.
Yeah.
Just like a 16-year-old son.
Oh, yeah, well, totally justified, but okay. So, believe it or not, they are tying it back to the underwear bomber. Did he have connections to al-Awlaki? Did they do this for the pride of Yemen? All those wonderful, wonderful things. So,
I'm honestly quite surprised they haven't tried to tie it to Assad.
No, because that wouldn't be convenient,
No, it would be quite convenient.
No.
Yes.
No, because look, how are you going to do that? I mean, you can only bat the proverbial birdie back and forth so many times regarding this. I mean, if you want to say that ISIS,
you can do it infinitely, and no one's going to question that. No one will question them.
Well, then you're officially more cynical than me, because I don't think that. No, it's okay, but your opinion's your opinion. But what I'm saying is, you're officially more cynical than me, because I don't think that that even the walking wounded out there would buy that. But
I hope you're right. I hope you're right. But I've seen so, and look, being in my classroom doesn't help.
Well, yeah, and I'm very, very sure that AQIP did not come up, right? Or AQAP. Sorry, whatever it is.
What's
Al-Qaeda in the Arabian Peninsula. Yeah.
Sorry, I drew a blank.
No problem, but Al-Qaeda in the Arabian Peninsula, this is part of the...
That did come up. I looked it up.
Oh, yeah, no. It comes up, but what I'm saying is, did it come up during the discussion in your class?
Oh, during the discussion in my class? No.
No, I didn't think so. But during this whole thing, they're pumping it, big time, and tying it, like I said, back to al-Awlaki again, and and the underwear bomber, which
You want to know who did this one? This is fun.
Oh, wait a minute, wait, whoa. Let's qualify this. You're saying that this is what your fellow students in your history class state, right?
This is not my crazy theory.
Okay, this is not your theory. This is not my theory.
Neither of us subscribe to this.
This is the purported theory, and and I got to just ask you this really quickly: are you sure you're not making any of this stuff up, Dylan?
What? You really cut out there.
Sorry, I said, are you sure you're not making any of this stuff up as we go forward?
I really wish I was.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure you said that, and we're clear on that. So, not my opinion, not your opinion, definitely not the opinion of those here at UCY.TV radio. That's for sure. So, let's hear what it is. And I have no idea, but go ahead, tell me.
Iran. Yes. Iran in collaboration with Hamas. How they know about Hamas is actually kind of impressive. I'm not sure how. I'm not sure where they heard it, but I'm kind of impressed that they did. I'll take my victories where I can get them.
See, I don't think that's a victory because, of course, during this whole unfolding of the narrative, what's happening is the discussion about allowing, the people that were killed at the kosher store there, they're being allowed to be buried in Israel and all that. And of course, hey, don't forget, Jews, you're welcome over here in Israel if you want to get away from all those crazy Arabs over there in Europe. So this has been part of the discussion, right?
Yeah.
So Hamas has to come up, right?
No, of course.
Oof. All right, so the Iranians and Hamas together...
which doesn't even make any sense.
Well, why would it? Why would it?
I'm sorry.
No, did they go any further about, like, say, the woman or the two brothers or discussing any of this, or... You still with me, Dylan?
Yeah, I'm still with you. Can you hear me?
Yeah, you cut out there for a second. What I was saying was...
My Skype is frozen.
Okay, well, I can hear you.
Okay, if I cut out, tell me.
No problem. I'll let you know. But bottom line is, okay, did they have anything to say about the two brothers or the woman that were, being touted about in the mainstream as to, who they are or anything like that?
The discussion went from, are they Iranian CIA operatives, basically, or are they Hamas special forces?
Well, Iranian CIA operatives, again, I'm going to give them some credit, because...
I'll give them a bit. I told you, it's somewhat of a victory.
No, but it shows an absolute lack of understanding in what's going on the grand chessboard, as it were, and who the actual pieces and players are. So...
Yeah. Which I can't blame them for. A lot of people don't understand that.
Well, yeah, but you would think they might have some clue. I mean, but they're way outside of the mainstream narrative. They're way outside of any of our kooky conspiracy theory narrative. They have their own thing going on, and I'm wondering what the rest of the world looks like to these kids, man.
Oh, I don't want to know.
There used to be
afraid.
Well, there used to be a phrase about wearing rose-colored glasses, and I don't know, maybe their glasses are colored kind of brownish.
I think I've got to go. I think the people were supposed to be here at 6:30, and they just showed up.
Ah, okay. Well,
I'll stay. I'll be back, hopefully.
All right, not a problem, Dylan, but I find this whole thing really remarkable. If you got to go ahead. And I've only got about 8 minutes left anyhow, so...
I'll see you next week.
No problem. We'll check in again with your history class next week and see what new theories they have.
God help us all. Bye.
Bye. So... Of course, Dylan does The Truth Speaks. You can find it out there on YouTube and across a couple other networks, which I always forget which networks he's on and off. He's all over the place now. But of course, a lot of his stuff is archived on YouTube. He does the show sometimes with Shake and Wake Radio, People's Internet Radio, which, Jillian Treblecock was somebody who was on the roundtable this week. Of course, I screwed up and said she was from the UK because People's Internet Radio broadcasts from the UK, comes from Ireland, but she's actually Australian. So again, my corrections and all that. Listen, if anybody wants to throw in a comment about anything that's gone on through this show tonight, go right ahead and give me a call. It's 718-717-8296. I do not have the chat room up, so for those of you frustrated about what's going on in the chat room, I think here, I'll give you guys a quick tip of the hat. Maybe next week we'll tell Dylan to ask his classmates what they think about the dancing Israelis, and then you guys will have fun with that. But we'll soon see. So as things develop, as things go down, and as the world seems to turn, though I question that even sometimes, I got to tell you that it's very difficult to maintain doing some of these broadcasts because I try and plan things out and they don't exactly come together the way I intended them to. But you can find my stuff at ucy.tv/TOE. There is the last 10 shows are archived there. If you want to get older stuff, at least until sometime in February, I also, Chuck Ochelli is on the SoundCloud, and you'll see a lot of radio shows that I've done over the past, year or so. on there, a couple older ones as well, some music I've done, stuff like that. Not too many people are utilizing the SoundCloud, so I'm debating getting rid of it. Interesting stuff that happened over the course of the weekend besides that roundtable, which was kind of chaotic but also a lot of fun. And other names I forgot to mention on the roundtable: Austin Thomas. I thought I did mention Maria Heller. I'm getting a Skype message. I didn't mention Maria Heller stopped by on there as well. And of course, April from Truth or Talk was on there for quite a while at the beginning. And yeah, Kim too. Kim was, does her show after mine on Saturday nights. Hopefully, people will join in a little more, and don't know if I'm having trouble getting phone calls or not. It's kind of an odd night that I'm not getting any. But if you guys do want to chime in these last couple of minutes, feel free, 718-717-8296. Also, if you're on the Charles.Ochelli Skype list, I will add you into the call live, no problem. So anyway, it is getting harder and harder to maintain some of this stuff. I mean, like I said, I don't think that maintaining the SoundCloud after the next couple of weeks is going to be necessary, so go ahead and get your free downloads from there, if you will, because I don't think I'm going to maintain it. And, the YouTube channel that UCY runs is great. I really do advise that you check that out as well, because some people don't really like to download MP3s and stuff like that, so you can catch a lot of the shows that are on here on YouTube also. I think, I'm not sure who's following me, actually. I'm trying to pull it up, and it's not coming up. These ridiculous pop-ups and stuff are always fun, as I've said many times. Let's see now. Probably get myself a fat feedback loop in my own ear, because it looks like I'm actually pulling up the UCY page, which always has a player on it as well, so you can catch the live shows. There we go. Now I'm hearing myself. Okay, there we go. All Things Apocalyptic with G. Michael Hopp will be on after me. And you can also find an archived show somewhere with me and G. Michael Hopp talking about things. So, anyway, like I was saying, a lot of things do go different ways than I planned them to. I am considering different options for the next couple months, and perhaps... I don't know. I think I'm going to maintain the 3 days of broadcasting here, and I'm going to stop doing all other shows and stuff like that. I do have Sherry Feaster coming on Thursday. We're going to discuss the forensics involved in the Kennedy assassination, which I know some of you are sick of me talking about JFK-related stuff, but this will be a scientific examination of evidence and the state of it as it stands. Also, Jim DiEugenio canceled on me this past weekend, will be on coming very, very soon. And I'm also going to do a part 2 with that Jonestown survivor, and possibly bring in some others, because I think that is a worthwhile topic as well. Greg Carlwood, who does the Higher Side Chats on the Higher Side Chat podcast, is going to be a guest of mine upcoming very soon. Let's see. A few other things are upcoming, and I just can't remember them all because I can't seem to pull anything up right now. So, back to it. Here's the deal. Liberty Beacon Tuesdays are always interesting. I do try and plan things out a little better than they have gone tonight, so I do apologize for the disjointed nature of what's been presented. I think it's fascinating to look at things with Dylan too, because we are understanding what the teenagers out there are discussing amongst themselves. So we get a little look-see into that, because I don't have great access points anymore to my teenager's mind. She has definitely gone into protective mode regarding what she wants to tell her dad anymore, and that is how that stands. So, as I've said many, many times, I want to thank you for listening to The Ochelli Effect. I do appreciate every last one of you, and all of your comments, including your hate mail, is all appreciated, which I do get a lot of, and I'm still actually building that episode at some point, so that we will do a hate mail episode as well. And that is the third time I have tried to join you into this conversation. So if you're hearing me, I guess you should forget it, because I'm just about out of time, Chief. Don't worry about it. We'll get to it next week. Anyway, everybody take care. Stay tuned for G. Michael Hoff.
Webcam, microphone, up close.
At the age of 19 in 1962, she was
See, but I have the files. You know, I read this stuff at the National Archives, and I read these other things.
I said to
all these
myself,
books,
that guy,
and how can that be possible? The brain, you know, pistols and the fondle slab of choice, and on computers, internet, professional wrestlers, and not Jesse Ventura style. It doesn't matter where the information comes from as long as it's real. It doesn't. It's hard to get real information because seriously.